we can just like if you don't want to record the rest, we can just.
Yeah, go ahead. It's fine. I'm good now.
All right. But so what I was saying was that I don't know where you lost. Do you know where you lost me?
About I think 2 minutes ago or 4 minutes ago, maybe.
So I guess I'll just start where I was. That I think that these people have a contradictory philosophy in the way that they justify their ethics as being just their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I feel that we should, help everybody else, or that I feel that that person's being immoral and that therefore they are. But then they take this entirely scientific approach to something else.
Yeah.
Or you're just not. You're against the science.
So I agree. I think, and I'll add to it. I think what's happening is that they feel something. Actually, I can give you a bit more than just a comment now. They feel something is right, and then they use these essentially statistics and indexes and stuff like that. Like you don't know. You don't know what goes behind it, but it seems to me like their observable reality is not even observable reality. The closest thing they are to reality is a scientist conducting some sort of experiment, some sort of paper, and saying there's inequality in the country, and that's bad. And we know from other papers that inequality leads to criminal behavior and whatnot. Therefore, we need to reduce inequality. But basically, what happens is you take like large sets of numbers, you aggregate them in a particular way, you produce some sort of statistical result, and you say, this is reality, and this is something that we need to change. So, for example, let's say I had a suffering index, and let's say the country's suffering index was 3, and they were to say, well, this is terrible, we need to reduce it to 2. Okay, like just so you understand the concept, like this is literally meaningless. Like from 3 to 2, how did you do it? How did you but to some degree, like this is something that this aggregation is something that it's like, this is reality. Like there's so many scientists behind it. How can you say that this is bad? It's like it's an index from 3 to 2. The happiness index, if you look at it, it's like it's a lot of it is subjective and based on surveys, but like to all the people that are for market socialism and social democrats, the Nordic countries, are the highest on the happiness index. What the fuck does that even mean? Or how far away are the other countries? They're not light years away. It's not like that Norway is galloping ahead of everyone else. It's like they're just 0.03 points behind. But even then, it's like it's entirely meaningless. But to them, there's scientists and researchers that said this is a happiness index and this is what we should aim for. Like it's just nonsense. And in addition to this, it's I think it's malicious. There's a kind of like malevolent intent here to some degree, because the way they calculate this, in a sense, it's called value-free economics. So you get like a bunch of data, and you strip in the economy, and you strip from them any values that the people who made those purchasing decisions, you just don't retain that at all. So for example, if I needed to buy a bicycle and someone needed to buy like some milk, then you don't know why I did those things, but you retain that purchase, or those two purchases, and then you aggregate it all together. So you lost like some fidelity in this sense. You don't know like peaks and troughs and outliers. It's just everything is one aggregated number. Then you apply some value to it. Typically a collectivist value. You say, because you have to some degree, like you can't just look at the numbers like in space, or like you put the numbers on the wall and just stare at them. You have to have a sort of moral reason to even begin the research that you are doing. So for example, the inequality, like inequality is bad, so let's do a research on inequality, and then like you go get the numbers, but this is like your focus of your projects. So, and it has a value. It has a moral value. So you're looking for something, and again, typically it's a collectivist something. So you strip all the values from all the people that bought a bicycle, and why did it make them happy? Not out of 10, how much did they make? You don't know. They bought milk. Did they need the milk? Did they not need the milk? Was it a purchase by how much value did they want from it? All that's gone. Aggregate it together, lose a lot of the meaning, and then superimpose a collectivist value on it. It's just, I don't know. It's like I've only recently like understood the process, but it's just very disheartening. And then like you have these utilitarians say, well, these scientists have said that this and this is bad. We need to fix it in society. We need to reduce the suffering index from 3 to 2. Like, okay.
Yeah, I agree, dude. It's actually another similar thing to add. I was just thought about this. I do think that these people base their ethics on just an arbitrary feeling. I don't necessarily think that that's the justifier for it, or that's the explicit justifier that they give you. The explicit justifier that they'll give you is some random psychological survey about how altruism is inherent in people or something like that. They'll use some, and I definitely think that the way that altruism is used in science isn't the best. So what they'll do, I remember arguing with a socialist on this exact point. I was arguing that altruism was bad. It's not a good thing. Altruism as defined by like Auguste Comte. And then he starts bringing up altruism in science, and he starts bringing up all these papers, and essentially he's just conflating benevolence with altruism. And it's just a weird argument where they say that because people have the capacity to be benevolent, because we have the capacity to care for others, therefore we should. Therefore we like automatically do. It's like it's an intrinsic process. I don't think that that's the actual justification they have internalized. I definitely think you're right that it's a feeling, but they try to justify that feeling with some random psychology experiment. And I definitely think that's flawed. The main reason I think is because I think that the way altruism is used in like psychology or biology is just to mean an action that like you do that has a negative effect on you physically, that in order to do that you help others. That's what altruism means. It has no reference to values or valuation, because none of that stuff is I don't know the word, extrospectively measurable. Like I can't look at a person and measure their introspective value hierarchy just by observing them. They only measure that, like a physical harm done to you or a physical negative, rather than what you value, or rather than something that's only introspectively available to you, that you can only observe that way as an individual. So I generally think that that their whole argument about, I don't want to say they, because they probably have different.
Well, it's probably the right pronoun.
A whole bunch. There's probably a whole bunch of different slews of psychological arguments that they'll use to justify, oh, well, we actually intrinsically just love everyone. And therefore, well, when I feel happy, therefore my feelings are just a product of my biological urges, my genes, or something like that. I don't know if you've experienced.
I wonder if they'll do something a little bit more subtle, where they'll say, I just don't like other people suffering. Do you like other people suffering? Are you an animal? Sorry, are you an evil person?
Yeah, no, that's them getting emotional, especially when you hit them with the facts
what else do they have?
Zombie Hunter. They don't really have anything else.
I mean,
that is just them. What is Rand's term? Blanking out. That's them blanking out, and then trying to just reason going out the window.
Hold on, I'm kind of wondering here a little bit. I don't know if they're necessarily blanking out. I don't know if they've thought about it deeply enough, and I know that it's could be the case that you're trying to pick on something that they know isn't well thought, but they care about it a lot. And they know, like, if someone asks, like even if a child asks, but why enough times, maybe it's not, they're not gonna like what they see. So it could be like a defense mechanism.
Well, yeah, but you can already obviously see the logical inconsistency with it too. There's no rationality behind that response. It's entirely emotional. Uh, like the logical inconsistency I immediately recognize is this idea that it's already assuming that you're evil for not liking people, especially when the entire, like, the context of the argument would be made where we're arguing whether or not that is the case. Is that an evil thing? Like, where does morality come from? But they've already assumed that it is. So it's just entirely an illogical, irrational throwing something out at you just to be able to dismiss you, because internally they have to be able to dismiss you. It's a
Yeah, they don't like the line of questioning. I don't know. Technically, like from a philosophy point of view, utilitarianism is dumb, or like from the gate. Like no philosophy student would agree with utilitarianism, but it's like 95% of the public, if not more, follow it. Pragmatism, utilitarianism, and if you ask why do you like these things, I don't know. To some degree, even I'm still affected by it. Like I have some deep down things that could be utilitarian, and I don't like to argue with people, or like if they ask me, do you want other people to suffer? I say, well, no, I don't really want other people to suffer. But to some degree, I don't know but if I think about it a little bit more, I say, well, I don't know if I can necessarily stop everyone from suffering, and I don't know if it's and if I think about it some more again, I don't know if it is my duty to stop everyone from suffering either. Like I have to some degree my life, and they have their own lives to make their own decisions. Now, if as a result of them making decisions, all the circumstances that they couldn't avoid, that they are suffering, and they ask me for help, I could be persuaded to help. But I don't know if necessarily I should be forced to help everyone in society. So that's or I have a duty to help everyone in society, not force. Sorry, if I should force myself because that's my morality.
No, yeah, I agree. That's I guess that's the idea of benevolence. That if there's somebody who is in problem due to no fault of their own, or maybe somebody close to you who is in fault even due to problems that they've caused them for themselves, you can be benevolent. You can help them out because you care about them, because you want to reduce their suffering, because there's like a lot of things behind that, reasons why you might want to do that. But the way I look at it is, the fact that you can be benevolent is not an argument that you therefore should be benevolent.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I also wonder to some degree about these things like social contract and stuff like that. If they are saying, look, we have to do these things, or it's better for in a society where these things, or people act in a particular way, then I don't know why they necessarily are comforted by the fact that the government forces people to act that way. Because if we do have this social contract that you are claiming that we have, and if we do have this duty to help one another that you're claiming that we should be doing, then it should just work. It should be automatic. Or you could persuade people to behave in this way or donate in this way. And I don't know why they're so comforted by the fact that the government is there to force you to either take money from you and do it in your name ish, or just like force you to do it outright. It just seems to me that the either they have an affinity with the government, or they have an affinity with someone in power using force, but it does seem like they are comforted by it.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, particular thing that I want to isolate
Okay.
is that I definitely think that the reason why, I guess you could refer to Hobbes here.
Okay.
So this is like the Hobbesian view of the social contract,
Mm-hmm.
where they believe they have a very negative view of people. I don't think very many people, like very many philosophies outside of objectivism, have an actual positive view of man in his like natural state.
Maybe, yeah.
These, I don't like saying these people because it creates this us versus them, but I don't know what else to call them.
It's fine.
These people,
I'm not the. I mean, these people are part of our society, but go on.
yeah, but these people hold this view of man that he's a rabid beast, or that he is entirely irrational, he's not social,
Selfish.
or even if they hold that he is social, yeah, he's selfish, he's evil.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like the Christian way of looking at it, or even the modern I guess you could say the psychologist view, where a lot of people who look at who use psychology as a justification, they'll say that man has a mixture of these altruistic and selfish genes. We can't exactly trust him to be moral, which the moral is, of course, being altruistic. We can't trust him to be moral, therefore we need a government to get to be able to force people to be moral. That's what the social contract is. We're supposed to give up a piece of our power, of our freedom, to so that the government so that society can be protected. Of course, the objectivist view is that there's no such freedom. The freedom to like murder other people, you don't have a freedom to do that. There's no such thing exists. That's where the whole idea of individual rights in the objectivist sense.
How do you both? I mean, yeah, I know Hobbes, and it makes a lot of sense what you're saying. But how do you have a situation where you both are concerned about people in your society suffering, and at the same time have no faith that other people in society will help them? That everyone is selfish, or maybe those that are suffering are because everyone is selfish, and here you are, the philosopher king, you're going to fix society and force people to help them if they want to or not.
So I think the justification either lies in the Christian route or like the religious route. It does not specific, but a religious route of original sin, of this idea of, or not original sin, of specifically of just God told you this is what's good.
You know, I really should have listened to you more when you wanted to explain to me some anti-religious points, because I think I'm really missing like a lot of context in this Judeo-Christian ethics that everyone is apparently by default using.
Well, a lot of people use Judeo-Christian ethics. Christianity is one of like the biggest religions in the United States, or it's probably the biggest religion in the United States, and you'll often hear this from conservatives or even just Democrats who are only slightly left, or even many even many like leftists who are Christian.
Mm-hmm.
This idea of, well, sacrifice is a good thing. Love your fellow man. I believe even in the Bible, Jesus like gave up all of his earthly possessions to the poor. Like that was a main moral
life,
learning. That's a main moral thing you're supposed to take away. But then you have the subjective. It's not necessarily subjectivist, but you do have a subjectivist route here, where it's just I personally feel that way, which is what we discussed before. I just feel that morality is entirely subjective. It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter what I believe. I feel this way.
How do you get from I'm literally imitating the Bible to I don't recall, I don't think I'm imitating the Bible, it just feels right? Like, how did you, not you, sorry, how did people make that transition to I know I live in a culture where the Bible and Judeo-Christian values are floating in the air, but I don't want to be religious. I'm atheist, and therefore I'll keep them, but I'll just say it's because I feel good when I help people.
Well, I think it would first start with somebody like Hume. First start with somebody like Hume, who I believe Hume argued the is-ought gap, that there was no fact of there's no something that is that could ever lead you to an ought. And that, I think, that kind of developed into this subjectivist, skeptical view of morality, of it's just an entirely arbitrary position within our brains. It isn't real, and it doesn't have any impact. So whether or not I morally think something is okay, it's just my personal opinion. There's no facts there's no real facts that would lead me to this belief. I can't cut open a person and show them a morality.
Yeah.
Or anything. There's no God that could show me a morality, because an objective morality could only come from a God or something like that.
No, I understand.
So, I mean, I've been in that when I was younger. Of morality, of course, morality is subjective.
Sorry, I remember what I wanted to say. So, if their morality is subjective, then why is their morality better than ours? Because
and to them, it's either my morality or yours.
Right,
it's either my arbitrary will or your arbitrary will.
But can I?
So why shouldn't I be able to enforce my arbitrary will on you? Or I guess you could say another way of looking at it would be, what about society's will?
Ooh.
What about everybody else's will? We all societally agree that this is wrong. Why shouldn't we, the majority, of course, have the right to force our opinions
on ourselves?
Or on you, really, the minority.
Well, let me go in two directions here. So firstly, I would say, what if you have other societies and they voted on something that you disagree with, but it's their society. So let's say in the Eastern European countries, they voted against having immigrants or doing things that in the West would seem wrong, but to them it's their subjective morality. So how can you say it's wrong? Or you can even go as far as say like a society that are cannibalists and they go to another town and they kill people, they come back and eat them. Like they've done it for hundreds of years. How can you say that is wrong? Obviously, like we can to some degree, but if it's subjective to the culture, then how can you say other cultures are wrong? And there is more moral relativism in that sense. But in addition, I want to go back to my previous question when I said, before we talked about original sin, if everyone in the country votes, again, I'm asking the same question. If everyone in the country votes to help people who are suffering, then why do you need to force people in the country, or who the majority of them agree to it? Why do you need to force them to do it? Because obviously they've already agreed to it. They voted for it. So it's not because it's not the original sin. Like it's not like lost in translation. We were original sin. We were Hobbesian. Now we're enlightened Democrats, and we want to help the people who are suffering. So why not just ask people to do that themselves?
So that's the thing to even the Christian. The thing is that people have free will. You have the free will to choose to be good or to be evil. And therefore, because you have the free will to choose to be good and evil, and if you therefore don't choose to be good, you gotta be forced to be good. You can't just let evil run amok.
So it's not the Hobbesian view; it's the free will. The fact that people have free will.
The free will, the Hobbesian view, is that man is a rabid beast. He'll do what he wants.
Okay.
And the idea is that when we come together in a society, we give up our power. Well, the Hobbesian view is particularly that we give up all of our power to a dictator or to a monarch. But if you combine this with like a Lockean perspective of the social, which I think is more common, of where we give up a piece of our power to the government in order to be able to enforce it, or in order to be able to enforce goodness on society. But Locke would argue that do it to enforce individual rights. But these people are going to take the perspective that
that's a division. Locke versus Hobbes.
Well, Locke. Okay, so Locke versus Hobbes. Hobbes believed that.
No, is that the division? Are these the two people that divide society? I didn't know they were going head to head. That's what I'm saying.
No, yeah, Hobbes and Locke go head to head. I believe that's it. I don't know. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Okay. But I know that Hobbes believed. Well, they go head to head in this specific way, where Hobbes is about a monarchical power of man's a rabid beast. He can't be trusted. So he gives up all of his power to one person who can do whatever he wants. And then Locke.
This is so socialist. This is like legit socialism. It's like, we're going to take.
It's monarchy. So it was Hobbes' views of it. This is like way before capitalism v socialism. This is capitalism v monarchy.
Okay.
So
no, I appreciate that monarchy isn't socialism, but it just the way I see it. Or maybe there are analogies to socialism, but the way I see, analogies to monarchism, but the way I see socialism is you take all the money from all the evil capitalists in the country because they have too much money power. Then you concentrate it into one person or one party, and then you hope and pray that you have some sort of democratic control over those people, which you actually don't. You've just given them concentrated power for the whole country. Not far away from a monarch, I suppose. Yes, you have votes and stuff like that, and I suppose, but it's like you had Stalin, you had like these long-term dictatorship. And yes, they were more populist, and they, where monarchs may not necessarily have had to please anyone, or maybe, but yeah, you give concentrated power to one person and hope they'll fix everything, and then hope that one person will be accountable to everyone else in the country. You may as well just ask for a benevolent monarch.
The funny thing about Hobbes is that Hobbes doesn't care if they're benevolent. Hobbes doesn't care if they help them. He can do whatever he wants. Okay. He's basically the primal man who can do whatever he wants, but everybody else, they have their power taken away. So that's how a society is able to Locke. I believe in his view of the social contract is that we give up a portion of our freedom to the government in order to protect individual rights. So like our freedom to murder somebody, we give that up to the government. And so that individual rights can be. I think to these people, in particular, they see it as less about individual rights, but the social contract is that we have to give up our power. And if, we see inequality around us, we see climate change happening, we have to give up our power as individuals to the government to fix it. To them, I think that's
why do we? Oh, because. But why? Why do we have to? Why do we see climate change? The government will be the one. So because it will force the evil people who don't listen to do what we say.
Yeah, the reason I think it's because they have a negative view of mankind. They look at man, they see him as a greedy, sniveling, scheming, evil person who has to be virtuous by sacrificing, by not caring about his values, but by maximizing good for everyone else. I do think utilitarianism is altruistic. It's not altruistic necessarily.
It's religious.
Utilitarianism?
It's sorry. it defaults to being religious in a sense. You don't know why you think these things are moral or good, but
Faith.
because you're in a society where, I mean, look, if there's a society where another set of morals that came before and they're not from religion, I think you'll absorb them. But basically, utilitarianism is, or at least to me, it seems whatever is floating in the culture.
Yeah, it's like
Because what else? It's like it's not like anyone sat down and said, this is actually good. No, this is actually bad. It's like, well, I feel this is good because reasons.
well, that's also not. I don't know how true that is, because there is like entire schools of thought of utilitarianism,
Right,
too.
but not the regular people think about that kind of stuff.
Which is why I think that this, I guess you could say, the flavor of utilitarianism that a regular person might hold is a subjective. This is what society,
Yeah.
This is just what society thinks. That's what's important. If a bunch of people vote on an issue,
Mm-hmm.
that makes it important. That makes it good. That makes it right.
Okay.
Um,
So I
and
assume that utilitarians mostly like the society they're in.
I don't know about that, but I think that the utilitarians who are actually like philosophical, they of course take that position that, oh, well, it's actually the most good for the most amount of people. We want to maximize happiness.
Yep.
We want to maximize happiness. Of course, and I think that's 100% a problematic philosophy, particularly because of the fact that it tells a man that his values are not what's important. It doesn't matter what values you hold. If an action that you take is good for you or against you, it doesn't matter if it's a benefit or if it's a sacrifice. All that matters is if whether or not it helps increase happiness for others, or whether or not it increases happiness, maximizes happiness for everyone.
What if it maximizes happiness for everyone, but detracts happiness from you personally?
Then that's I guess you could say that's a sacrifice you have to take. But a utilitarian isn't. I think they're different from the altruist, because the altruist says that that's the moral good. The moral good is that you've sacrificed for others.
Yeah.
But to a utilitarianism, if you've benefited from that sacrifice, say you sacrifice other people to yourself, you take money from the capitalist and give it to the poor, and even though you're sacrificing, what's good is not that you yourself are making the sacrifice or that other people are making the sacrifice. It's that other people are being happy. That's all that matters, is that you're maximizing happiness for others.
So utilitarianism to some degree is not altruistic?
I just don't think it's the same. It definitely not the same as like of a religious altruism, I think.
Oh.
Because I remember reading stuff from like Augustine. I didn't read stuff from Augustine, but I know from some of the arguments from Augustine, who would believe that he himself should like eat the poorest amount of food possible. He should live essentially a miserable life, having no values here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what's good. You have to save, live miserably on here so that you can live forever happy in heaven.
Okay.
But you should live miserably. So
that is kind of aestheticism, no? Like religious monk-like people that.
Yes, that's exactly what that is. I mean, that's what philosophy was during the Dark Ages.
Yeah.
The Dark Ages, like before the Renaissance, that's what people believed. They were like, I'm just working my life here and being a good person by sacrificing my life and by sacrificing my life for everyone else or for society in order so that I can get up to heaven.
Yeah.
But the utilitarian, I think, is different. I think it's different in the way they view sacrifice, because it isn't so much of. Yeah, it's just increased happiness. It doesn't matter who benefit. It doesn't matter if you benefit even from it, It doesn't matter if if you and a bunch of other people benefit,
Mm-hmm.
or if you have to sacrifice. It just increase happiness, maximize it.
So you live through the happiness of other people or the other people in society or something like that? If other people are happy, you're happy?
Well, that's one aspect. I mean, I think that there's multiple ways people look at it. Some people probably argue that,
Sorry, let me
oh, well,
let me
yeah,
rephrase.
you should.
Let me rephrase. If the collective is happy, you're happy?
Yeah, no, that's definitely what socialists argue, I feel.
Utilitarian is sorry.
Well, even both, I think both of them. I remember getting into a heated argument with a communist, talking about why should I, sacrifice my life for others? Why should I give things up? Why should I sacrifice? And his answer was, um, because you benefit from society. Because if everybody pitches in for something like a communal road or something like that, you benefit.
You're part of the collective, you benefit from it.
Exactly.
I don't think they understand the sacrificial animal part that Ayn Rand talk about. That if the collective is more important than the individual, then sacrificing a few individuals, as long as the collective stays strong, is still perfectly fine.
Yeah, I remember this. This is actually a part of Peacocks' opening statement for his 1984 debate.
You're the second person that mentions this debate to me today.
Have you watched it? It's good.
I've watched it recently, in fact. So the thing that I was mentioned was in the debate, the side of Peikoff and Ridpath, they keep going, all we heard is Sermon on the Mount, all we heard is Sermon on the Mount, and basically implying that the other side has a religious argument. And it's like, you see like a socialist and a feminist, and you think, they didn't mention any religious argument. So, I mean, I guess like if you extrapolate the core of it, then it's religious. But like, I think if today you keep like saying, well, you have a religious argument, I said, no, I'm not, I'm an atheist. Why you keep saying that?
I don't know about that. But I do remember from Peacock's opening statement where he talks about this idea of the socialist is going to proclaim that the individual might benefit from his system, but it doesn't change the fact that people are being sacrificed.
Yeah.
It doesn't change. It doesn't change the fact that you're treating that individual, particularly, as something that can just be tossed away. So no matter how much you supposedly benefit from such as, you as the individual don't matter.
Yeah, I think that is the principled stance to take on it. But utilitarians, being pragmatists, they're like, no one means to sacrifice anyone. We're just taking a little off the top. Surely you can manage without a little off the top. And then so to them, it's like, it's never extreme. It's never black and white. It's always like a gray area. So like, yeah, we're sacrificing some people, but they're not like suffering, and other people are suffering more. Therefore, fine, we can take from them. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah, but then of course you gotta just ask them, what's their justification? Like, why
We need-
is
I
that
need-
fine
I need-
and why isn't this fine?
We need to work. We need not to work on that. I need to see that happen in real life because I'm struggling with that a little bit, and I want to see a non-philosophically leaning social democrat or lefty answer that question in real time, or like, because obviously they'll deflect as much as possible, but because it's like a painful kind of question, but I want to see that happen in real time, and I want to see some talking points about it because I it's difficult for me to envision it. I tried it on one person; they didn't know what to answer even. So
actually, I have a question real quick. When you were debating your wife,
yep.
As like I guess as a devil's advocate, were you attacking her position or was she attacking your position?
I was asking her what's her framework, what's our ethical framework for saying something is morally good, morally bad? And basically, I don't know if it's out of frustration or just like a knee-jerk reaction, where he says, "Well, I want to reduce suffering in society. Do you want to have more suffering in society?" And then, like, you're on the back foot saying, "Well, no, but I'm just trying to understand your ethical framework." And I don't know if they've necessarily thought about it.
So here's maybe something you could try and do that'll help you. Do you feel more comfortable actually arguing in favor of Rand, or I don't know exactly how closely you follow the objectivist ethic, but do you feel comfortable arguing in favor of your ethic from a starting point to the end?
I'm in a position where I want to like have a clear communication to the other side. I want to reach the other side. I I I want to use Rand to be able to do that, but I just want to be sensitive to the words that Rand, like just literally the words that Rand uses, and the words that we can use today. I think there could be like a difference, or it could be like that some terminologies have more like baggage or additional stuff that today will make an argument go a different direction than the one I would want it to. And so I'm just very careful, or I'm at least I'm aware to be very careful. I don't know if I'm necessarily succeed in being careful, but I'm aware to be careful that that could happen.
So here's something that I find to be helpful whenever I'm debating somebody,
Yeah.
or whenever I'm debating a particular topic. It doesn't matter about specifics, but about a particular topic.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's helpful that you first actually argue your position and see how they respond. So, make your case for the a rational egoist, specifically from the starting point of like, what is ethics? What's the nature of ethics?
Right.
All the way to the end. I know that takes a minute. It takes a fat minute, and you might not be able to
no,
5 minutes of an opening debate speech.
It's fine. I just want to add a layer here. I am under the impression that if I were to present the rational egoist position, that I'll have to use a translator to utilitarianism. I'll give an example. So if I say, well, we want people to be free, we want people to, pursue their own happiness, and here's the utilitarian side. And if they do that, you'll have more. That was the moral, and the practical is, you'll have a richer country, you'll have more stuff produced, you'll have more innovations, you'll have a higher quality of life, and all these things. And they're like, well, now that you're in my realm of utilitarianism, I have all these studies that say if I do taxation, I'll increase the standard of living for the poorest people. So now, like, you realize what kind of happened.
No, yeah, I understand. So, which is why don't bring it to the language of the utility. I know you're trying to be.
They won't.
Trying to be. Oh, they'll engage. They'll engage, especially if they're debate bros. But they may not engage honestly. But if they are an honest person, if you present an argument, I guess you could say you start. What's the nature of ethics? People have to be able to. I'm not going to explain this, but I think it's helpful to actually argue your position in your own words. Don't necessarily like try and appease them, but just see how they would respond. What questions would they ask you, and how would you respond to them? And the reason why I think that's helpful is because sometimes I honestly don't know how I would respond to another person's point, except outside of explaining my own position on the particular point.
I don't know. I think we've already kind of like shown like a very large gap between us and and utilitarians. We see people as benevolent, they see them as malevolent. We want to free them up, they want to lock them down. We want to give them choice so they're able to produce and innovate and all that kind of stuff that I look for, and they just want to make sure that the people pay taxes, so the people who suffer will work. I do think there is. I kind of need to go, but I do want to end with an example, and you tell me what you think about this. I would think that we can kind of grab, or I'm wondering if we can grab the consequentialists. So it's the utilitarian that want like some kind of result. And tell me what you think about this example, yeah? So
Okay.
let's say we speak to a utilitarian, then I said, okay, fine, let's do this hypothetical example. Let's take society and split it into two. I take my people, you take your people. I take the people who want to be productive, who want to achieve, who want to keep what they owned, and I'll bring them to my side. And in your side, the utilitarian, you'll have the people that want to help other people and the people that need that help. And we'll have a rule that people can move their people can relocate from one state to the other whenever they want to. They can't like do it every day, but like they can if they want to relocate. Will take them a week, let's say, then they'll do that. Now let's fast forward 20 years. What do you think will happen in this hypothetical example?
That people could just move around.
Well, no. What will happen is that the people that are productive and innovative, their side will be very rich, and the people that and eventually, like all the people that want to get rich too, will move to the other side, because the side that doesn't have these productive people and has like the expenses of taking care of people needy over time will get poorer and poorer and poorer.
Well, you don't even need a hypothetical for that example. You can
Well,
use real life one.
I think it's a good example because
No, you're right. It's a good example, but I'm saying you don't necessarily just need it to be a hypothetical. You could use the real life example of, say, like Berlin during the Cold War.
okay. Well,
do you know like
yeah.
like
I
think that's a
agree.
good example. I think that,
I agree. I just depends how much they know about it, but yeah.
well, yeah, I mean they had to build an entire wall in order to keep their people from going over to the West because
Do
the
you know
West
what?
was so
Actually,
prosperous.
they'll probably say that's not what I advocate for.
Well, yeah, but you could still bring up the point that like if you should let that people should have the right to be free.
Well,
I think you could move it back to that. I think you can move. I think you have to be able to bring it back to individual rights. You can't just
they don't care.
try and get them to agree on. They do care about individual rights to some extent. Or I guess you could say they care about. I don't know exactly how I would bring this up, but I think I have talked with utilitarians before, and I use the exact strategy that I described to you. I explain my position. I hear what they have to say, what they have to argue against it. Because if you ask them enough questions, you might get back to it. I just feel this way. But if you make a logical argument, starting from an actual axiomatic like position that doesn't just evolve, that doesn't go back to I feel this way, then they have to come up with some sort of argument against it. They can't just resort to I feel this way, because you could just bring up that that's not an argument.
Okay, so if I say rights are important, what would they say?
If you make the objectivist argument that why are rights important, and if you make that full case, this is why rights are important morally, because men in a social context need to be able to pursue their own values. Why is pursuing values good? Because of the nature of ethics and how we need to be able to, or because values are necessary to live. And then so you can make there's this whole you could I don't want to say you could reduce the argument back to its epistemological roots, and the objectivist position doesn't go back to I feel this way.
Have you tried this? Have you tried this?
Yeah. Yes, and? I do.
And how did it go?
It was interesting because the debate that I had it in, it was just a text debate over Discord.
Okay.
I was just texting the guy, And he eventually started trying to get into nitty gritty about why I was wrong.
So he gave you these
Like
hypotheticals and stuff like that?
no. So what I mean was he tried to like take up like nitpick almost. And I explained to him full force that nitpicking, like that's not an actual argument. Whether or not like a gorilla can talk does not matter. Does not mean rights aren't important.
Okay. Whether a gorilla can talk doesn't mean rights aren't important.
Yeah. So yeah, they started bringing up about whether or not animals have rights.
Okay.
And I just explained to them my position on it. And I was just explaining to them like that their argument doesn't actually lead to anywhere. It doesn't lead to any, like it doesn't, whether or not that is true of whether or not an animal, or let's say gorillas have rights or something like that. That's not an actual argument against my position that human rights are important and that we should protect individual rights. So do you see what I mean? How like nitpicking isn't really an argument against my actual, it's just a red herring, I guess you could call it.
Yeah,
but I got somewhere. I didn't get steamrolled by them, because when I'm in my comfortable zone, which is talking about the objectivist ethics, you get a better understanding of utilitarian and what they have to say against it.
But they didn't say anything against it. They just tried to nitpick it.
So, what I mean by that is, so that's what they ended with. So that was the end of the conversation. They did try to bring up some arguments of the happiness for the most people or whatnot.
I see. Let me think about that. It could be me. I struggle to teach or reverse engineer what I studied and then teach it. But yeah, let me think about that. Yeah, okay. I think it was a good chat. I think we ironed out a few things. Are you now that you're more free? Are you gonna debate or do something similar?
Oh, I don't. Probably. I'm not actively looking for like an online debate. I feel like my days past that are kind of over.
Oh.
Unless I found like an opportunity. Well, that's because I like to do it professionally. I like to take my time, maybe take like 4 days behind the debate and actually write something out. Write out my argument before I speak, and then I speak them. I mean, I'll send you the videos after this if you want to watch them.
Yeah, sure.
I'll try to send the socialist one. I want to clarify, I don't make good arguments, but
I'll be the judge.
That's what I like to do, and so that requires a lot of effort from me. So unless I actually really want to debate, I won't actively find. I'll do it with. If you want to debate me on something, then
what? We're on the same opinion.
Oh no, not exactly.
We're not.
If you want to debate monkey rights, done. Just kidding.
Right. Okay. Okay. Look. Thank you for the chat. I will not debate monkey rights with you, but I don't even think I'm making that argument. But yeah, with regards to utilitarianism, I think I think I've been talking about utilitarianism at least for a year now, and or on and off, and I don't know if I've made necessarily too much progress in it, because it's always like a moving target in a lot of respects to like nail down a root cause.
Like I said, dude, I think what you gotta do is you gotta try and argue for the objectivist position to a utilitarian. See how well you do with that. See what they say. I think going on the offensive might have been the wrong of like asking them questions, trying to show them why you think that. Because unless you're fully integrated, unless you understand how that interacts with your idea, which I think you get. I don't know. I just think you get the best experience from that when you're in a comfortable position, a more comfortable position, arguing for your ideas that you've thought about.
Okay. I mean, I think that I used to be the way you're describing, and now I think that maybe a little bit more aggressive
Oh, you're like
interrogation.
everybody else. You're just like everybody else.
Yeah, well, I'm not gonna disagree, but like it just seems to come with the territory. I mean, at least if they do the same to me or they pin me down, I'm able to give like an argument, and then they'll nitpick it. But I don't want. I'm tired of being on that side. Yeah, a lot of the debates now, like in economics, it's like, well, I saw a study, I say this, and then like, well, I have a different study that said the complete opposite, and then like the person who blanks out first loses.
Yeah, that's why I try not to debate. I feel like there's a lot of contradictory.
Yeah, the economic side is.
I found a study from from socialist.com that says.
Yeah, the economics is it's not fun. The advantage is that we have like principles. We go from first principles in a sense, and we understand like what's going under the hood. And I have some experience in the business world. But it's not fun, and it's cringy a little bit, and it's soundbitey a little bit, and it's not no one's persuaded by anything. No ideas come across to the other side, and they're like, this is interesting. I'll think about that. Yeah, we're only trying to like one up one another. Showmanship.
I've wanted to step back
from your career as a debater.
No, from that particular kind of debating. That's all I've done.
I agree.
That's really all I've done. When I was a speech and debate kid, that's all I did was that kind of debate of I'm not here to change minds, I'm here to win.
Yeah, I never attended those in high school or stuff like that. Maybe I should start. I was thinking a bit I should start focusing more like on like personal development in a sense, because that's something, in objectivism you have a lot of.
Personal development?
Yeah, like, how to make myself happy, how to focus on myself, how to study more philosophy and improve.
That's a good thing.
And if I were to, keep if I were to continue with the YouTube channel to focus on those sorts of videos, in like a mix of like my experience in like work environment and what helps you succeed in your career and stuff like that, or tips to help you succeed. I think I don't know if that's as saturated the market as it could be, but at least it would be a bit more wholesome for myself to go down that route. Yeah, I miss the days where you can just have discussions with people, even if you disagree with them, but at least like have a pleasant exchange of ideas and see what's going on.
It's like it's a diamond, and you'll find some. And then
yeah, it's too few and far between though. Yeah, the debate scene is very political. It's very trans issues or this or that. Like, I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I mean,
the same boat.
I mean, yeah, people want to do something with their bodies or whatnot. That's their ish. That's whatever they want to do. I'm not gonna shout or say anything about it. So I'm kind of lost in the outrage scene. Although, like, being capitalist, you can always outrage someone. But yeah. Anyway, I'm gonna go to bed. So thank you for the chat.
All right. I'll send you my video.
Please. Okay.
Oh, do I not even?
Bye-bye.